To the outside world, it looked like I had been chasing Charlotte for 3 years without success. But only the two of us knew the truth. We had been secretly together for 3 years. At a party, people teased me, asking if I still couldn't win Charlotte over, and whether I planned to stay single forever. Even Charlotte laughed, saying, "I know plenty of people want me to introduce you to a hot girl for some fun." In my previous life, on this very day, I had lost control and revealed our relationship publicly. The transfer student, Claude, had walked away silently. Charlotte didn't confront me then, but behind closed doors she grew colder and more distant. After we married, I dedicated myself to supporting her career. When I had a car accident and was rushed into surgery, she was in the Maldives with Claude relaxing. When I was sent to the crematorium, she celebrated Claude's birthday at a Michelin restaurant. That was when I finally understood she had never loved me. Now, with a second chance at life, I just smiled and said, "No need. I'm already engaged." The room fell silent. Almost instinctively, everyone turned to look at Charlotte. She lounged on the sofa, her poised figure stiffening briefly before she let out a derisive laugh. "Perfect saves me from having you. Trailing me around every day, annoying me to death." I smiled faintly, but stayed silent. The atmosphere grew awkward. The friend who organized the gathering tried to lighten the mood. "Come on, let's keep the game going." Charlotte's turn. "The task is pick a guy here and kiss him for 30 seconds. It was meant to be playful, but the room quieted again. There were only 2 men present, me and Claude. Everyone knew that from day one. Claude and I had never gotten along. The host gave an awkward chuckle. "Charlotte, maybe just have a drink instead." "No need." Charlotte set down her wine glass and without hesitation grabbed Claude by the collar and kissed him. His eyes widened, but soon he cupped the back of her head and took control. When the kiss ended, Charlotte sank back into the sofa, her gaze fixed on me. "It's just a game. Not like I can't afford to lose." Laughter erupted around us. The friend beside me gave a sympathetic glance. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed. A message, "Did you get home yet?" I stood up and addressed the group. "I've got something to take care of, so I'll head out first." Without another word, I left the private room. I had been reborn a month ago. The very first thing I did after returning was break up with Charlotte and accept my family's arrangement to get engaged to Diana Sue, the talented young lady from City A in my past life. My family had arranged the same engagement, but I had refused, obsessed with Charlotte. When I died on the operating table, Charlotte traveled the world with Claude. Diana, however, had been the one to bring my body home. I lowered my head and replied to her message, "Not yet. I'm about to head back now." Grandpa Sue's birthday was approaching, and tonight Diana and I had arranged a video call to pick out a gift together. More notifications buzzed from my phone. Charlotte's messages. "What's wrong? Can't stand being away already. Weren't you acting all bold just now? Lying about being engaged to get under my skin?" I glanced at my previous breakup message to her sent a month ago, which she had ignored. Narrowing my eyes, I didn't reply and slipped my phone back into my pocket. A black Maybach was parked roadside. "It's not safe to go back alone at night, so I got you a car." "Sorry, there's something going on in City A, so I can't come." Myself, I smiled faintly and replied, "It's fine. You go ahead and take care of your work." The Sue family wielded immense power. Grandpa Sue's birthday would be a grand event. Diana had already prepared a gift on my behalf, but I wanted to pick one personally to show my sincerity. The moment the video call connected, a beautiful face appeared on the screen. Diana was wearing a black dress, her fair skin and delicate features striking, yet her voice didn't quite match her appearance. She carried an air of aloofness, but when she spoke, it was soft and gentle. I showed her the gifts I had carefully chosen based on Grandpa Sue's preferences, one by one, and she listened patiently to each explanation. Before I knew it, we had been talking for over an hour. As the conversation was winding down, she said, "William, I'll have someone come pick you up this weekend." I nodded and replied, "All right." After hanging up, I went to wash up. Returning to bed, I picked up my phone and saw a message from a friend. "William, are you okay? The reason I set up today's gathering was to try and match you with Charlotte, but I didn't expect." I sent back a cheerful sticker to show that I really was fine. Then, after a moment's thought, I added, "I really am engaged. From now on, I won't have anything to do with Charlotte." The typing indicator appeared on my friend's side, and after a long pause, he replied, "It's good you've moved on." I curved my lips into a faint smile, exited the chat, and began scrolling through WeChat moments. The newest post was from Charlotte. "Let me introduce my new boyfriend. Love him the most." The photo was a selfie of her with Claude. The tone of the caption, along with the emoji, clearly wasn't Charlotte's style. It was almost laughable. During our 3 years together, she had never once let me touch her phone, let alone post on her moments. Now, it had nothing to do with me anymore.
No?
I turned off my phone and soon drifted into sleep. In the middle of my deep slumber, a ringtone startled me awake. Squinting, I fumbled to answer, and Charlotte's voice came through. "William, I drank too much. Come pick me up." I instantly sobered, silently cursing my bad luck. I should have blocked her. When I didn't respond, Charlotte chuckled. "Still mad? Saw the post on WeChat moments, huh?" Her tone lifted at the end, carrying a hint of delight. "I lost a game just messing around." "I can delete it in 3 days," I said coldly. "It's got nothing to do with me." But for some reason, that only seemed to amuse her more. "All right, don't be mad. Tomorrow morning, I'll buy you those meat buns from the shop in the east of the city, the ones you love. Save some room, be good." That last word made my skin crawl. I hung up immediately, blocked her, turned off my phone, and went back to sleep. The next morning, I arrived in the classroom. Claude was sitting at his desk, eating breakfast. When he saw me, he smiled faintly and said to Charlotte, who was lying on her desk asleep, "Charlotte, thanks for going all the way to the east side this morning to buy me meat buns." "I'm really happy." Charlotte lifted her eyelids. "Long as you like." She didn't finish the sentence. The moment she saw me, she froze. Without looking at either of them, I walked straight past and sat down at my seat to start reading. It wasn't until the break that Charlotte blocked me against the wall in the restroom. "William, this morning, Claude said his stomach wasn't feeling well, so..." I cut her off, nodding slightly and trying to walk past her. Charlotte frowned and grabbed my wrist. "William, don't be so petty. If it were you and a classmate wasn't feeling well, you'd have done the same thing I did." I shook her off, a mocking smile tugging at my lips. This kind of thing had happened countless times before. Claude always found excuses to take away anything Charlotte had promised me. He was naive, gentle, and never fought over anything. Every time he looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and whispered, "William, I'm sorry. It's my fault." I ended up feeling like the unreasonable one, grumpy, irritable, always stirring up trouble. Charlotte rubbed her temples. "All right, don't be mad. Tomorrow's the weekend. I'll take you to another city for some fun, maybe. A meal, a movie." Back then, whenever our arguments got intense, she would always do this. No real apology, no true resolution, just a meal or a movie. And suddenly everything was brushed aside as if nothing had happened. I ignored her and walked away. The next morning, the Sue family's car was already waiting downstairs. I was a little surprised since no one had tried to wake me. I was about to speak when I got a text from Charlotte from a new number. "William, I've got something to do this weekend, so I can't go to the movies with you. Be good, take care of yourself, and eat well. If I find out you're misbehaving, I'll spank you. Bring your wife's number back." Her words made my stomach. Turnay nearly threw up. First thing in the morning, and she was already bringing bad luck. I decided that if I had the time, I really needed a brand new SIM card. 3 hours later, I landed in City A. The moment I arrived, Mrs. Sue came to greet me. She and my mother had been best friends since childhood. One had stayed in the capital. The other married into City A, but distance had never weakened their bond. Mrs. Sue looped her arm through mine and glanced around. "Where did that girl Diana Sue run off to?" The butler beside her replied, Miss was waiting for the young master earlier, but President Sue called her away. The formal way he addressed me made me feel slightly embarrassed. That child is always busy, 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 Mrs. Sue said. William, let Mom take you around first. I glanced down at my phone. Diana had just sent me a message. Wait for me. I'll come find you in a bit. I typed back, all right. Mrs. Sue guided me through the banquet, introducing me to everyone. To each person, she said, This is my son-in-law, William. Look at that handsome face. Mrs. Lee, isn't your daughter still single this year? Oh, this is my son-in-law. When we have the wedding, you'll be invited. Oh my, Mrs. Wong. After a few rounds of this, I was starting to feel overwhelmed. Luckily, the crowd was large, and Mrs. Sue was busy. Before leaving, she had the butler stay with me, young master. The garden outside is planted with many of your favorite flowers. You can go take a look, he said. I blinked in surprise. My favorites. The butler smiled. This miss has been preparing them for a month. We all know your preferences. I couldn't help but feel surprised. And beyond that, there was another feeling I couldn't quite describe. I didn't know Diana very well. She had clearly gone out of her way to learn about me. Thank you, Uncle Leo. I'll go take a look, I said. I walked to the garden, and just as the butler had said, every flower was one I liked. As I admired them, a familiar voice came from ahead. William, what are you doing here? I looked up and saw Claude standing there, shocked. Beside him was Charlotte, the same one who had texted me about her urgent business this weekend. Charlotte froze when she saw me. She hurried toward me. What are you doing here? Behind her, Claude tugged at her sleeve and spoke cautiously to me. William, I didn't expect you to secretly follow us here. Don't blame Charlotte. She actually planned to bring you. It's just that my family isn't well off, and I've never been to another city before. Charlotte is kind-hearted. She wanted me to broaden my horizons. I'm sorry. Don't be mad. If anyone deserves blame, it's me. His eyes reddened as he spoke. The same routine as before. Charlotte grabbed my arm. Since you've secretly followed us, stay behind me and don't run around. Today's occasion is very important. Her touch made me feel a deep sense of disgust. But we were at the Sue residence, surrounded by so many guests, and I didn't want to argue. I shook her off. Charlotte frowned. William, don't throw a tantrum. I stopped and turned to look at her, annoyed. I was about to speak when I saw the butler approaching with several bodyguards. I blinked. Uncle Leo. The bodyguards quickly restrained Charlotte and Claude. The butler said, Throw these two out. They moved so fast that by the time I realized what had happened, Charlotte and Claude were already gone. The butler gave me a warm smile. Young master, if you ever need anything, just say the word. While we're here, no one will bully you. Miss is waiting for you. When I turned, I met a pair of beautiful eyes. It was my first time meeting Diana in person, and she was even more stunning than she had appeared on video. The black dress hugged her graceful figure, and her delicate face was breathtaking. We got engaged. It had been after both of us agreed, and our elders had been so happy they finalized it over the phone. William, Diana said, as she walked toward me. I had expected a little awkwardness at our first meeting, but she held my hand as if we were already familiar. Her voice was just as gentle as it had been on the video call. Are you hungry? Let me take you to eat. After sitting on a plane, for hours I was starving. Diana led me into the Sue family dining room, where every dish on the table was something I liked. Was surprised. She sat beside me and even put on gloves to patiently peel shrimp for me, which made me feel embarrassed. Followed Diana to greet the Sue family elders. By the end of the banquet, the gifts filled 5 suitcases. Diana sent me back to the capital, and as we were parting, I hesitated. Diana, how did you find out all my preferences? From flowers to food, even the gifts. Diana smiled, though her eyes were serious. I've always known. But you still don't know what I like. She curved her lips. There's plenty of time. You'll find out slowly. I nodded. It was late, and Diana had business to attend to, so she rushed back overnight. After saying goodbye, I went upstairs and saw Charlotte at the door. I didn't know how long she had been waiting, but when she saw me, her face was full of anger. "William, where did you go?" My expression turned cold. "What does it have to do with you?" She laughed in disbelief. "What does it have to do with me?" "Do you remember I'm your girlfriend?" My tone was laced with mockery. "Am I your public announcement didn't feature me? I broke up with you a month ago?" Charlotte's expression faltered, but the next moment she grabbed my wrist. "Come with me now and apologize to Claude." I was completely baffled. When I didn't move, her anger deepened. "I didn't expect you to have relatives working at the Sue family. But fine, let's say you secretly followed me to City A, but you had your relative yesterday's, Kokoliothromi, and Claude out in front of everyone. Do you know how much that hurt Claude's pride? He's sensitive, fragile, and proud. He was so upset he's talking about dropping out of school. When did you become so cruel?" Her words made me let out a short, cold laugh. I knew she had misunderstood my relationship with the butler. In my previous life, I had thought Claude didn't know about me and Charlotte, that he was just another person she deceived. It wasn't until I received Claude's text before died that I realized he had known all along. Not my problem. I didn't waste another word on Charlotte. I opened the door and went inside. Charlotte stared at me for a long moment, then let out a derisive laugh and stepped back. Her voice was calm as she said, "William, well done." With that, she turned and walked away. The next morning, when I arrived at the classroom, I noticed my classmates looking at me with sympathetic expressions. I didn't understand why at first, but then I saw that everyone's desks were covered with candies. My desk had them too, actually even more than the others. My friend Eric came over, his tone a bit complicated. "These are Charlotte and Claude's wedding candies." I nodded, showing that I understood. Eric opened his mouth to say something more, but ultimately stayed quiet. A few days later, he came to me, phone in hand, furious, showing me a WeChat Moments post. It was a photo of Charlotte and Claude together. Claude had his arm wrapped around Charlotte's waist, grinning happily, while Charlotte's hand rested on his head. The caption said Charlotte and Claude had taken a 2-week leave and gone abroad for a vacation. Indignant on my behalf. Eric said, "You chased Charlotte for 3 years without success. And Claude transfers here for just 2 months. And then I kept my eyes on the book in front of me, not looking up. I've said it many times. It has nothing to do with me anymore." Eric sighed. "Forget it. I guess you two just aren't fated to be." Then he patted my shoulder. "How about a get-together after school tonight? I booked a private room at Nightlight Club." I didn't refuse. I just nodded. Eric skipped a class and went there early. I waited until school ended before heading over. When I arrived, there were already people in the private room. In the innermost seat sat Charlotte and Claude. Eric grabbed my arm and pulled me inside with a shout. "Charlotte, look who's here." My face darkened. Charlotte leaned back on the sofa, let out a mocking laugh, and looked at me with a half smile. I turned to Eric. His expression was evasive. But he still urged me, "William, sit next to Charlotte. There's a seat there." I didn't say anything. I just looked at him quietly. Eric and I had known each other since our first day at school. We often attended classes together, ate together, and even traveled during breaks. I had truly treated him like a brother. Charlotte stood up from the sofa, naturally looping her arm through Claude's as she lifted her chin toward him. "Let's go." "Oh. Didn't you say you wanted dessert from C's tonight? I'll take you there now." Claude's cheeks turned red, and he nodded. As they walked past me, Claude glanced back and gave me a smug smile. Eric saw it too and was furious. "William, did you see that? How arrogant he is?" I didn't respond, only looked at him calmly. Eric pressed his lips together. "William, I really can't stand Claude. Of course, mostly I just feel bad for you. How can he swoop in and take your place like that?" Said, "Don't have any more contact with me from now on." When I walked out of the club, Charlotte was standing alone by the entrance, leaning against the door frame with her bag in hand. Seeing me, she crossed her arms over her chest, a smile playing on her lips. "This time you held out quite a while, broke your own record." "But what's this?" Getting thinner-skinned now? You don't come looking for me yourself? So you use your friend instead. Over the past 3 years, Charlotte and I had had our Cold Wars. But every time, she was the one giving the silent treatment. And I could never hold out more than a few days before lowering my head and asking for peace. Charlotte smiled, reaching out as if to hook her arm through mine. All right, I'm guessing you've spent this past half-month reflecting and realized you were in the wrong. I was about to sidestep her, but her hand froze in mid first because Claude appeared not far away carrying desserts. He didn't say a word, just stood there quietly. The corners of his eyes tinged red. Charlotte glanced at me, then at him, and finally lowered her hand. William, go back first. I'll come find you tonight. With that, she turned and walked toward Claude. Claude handed the desserts to Charlotte, his voice slightly choked. Charlotte, do you want to eat this? Normally, Charlotte would have smiled and told Claude to feed her, but thinking of having just seen William, she said, not right now, Claude. I'm going to delete the post on WeChat Moments. Since William had taken the initiative to back down, Charlotte felt she should give him some response. After all, he had been her boyfriend for 3 years. Claude's voice trembled slightly, but he said, all right. Then he added, Charlotte, it's getting late. Not safe for you to go home alone? Can you let me walk you back? Charlotte didn't refuse. That night, after washing up and getting into bed, I received a text from an unfamiliar number. It was an image. When I opened it, I saw Charlotte and Claude lying together in bed, arms wrapped around each other. William. Charlotte is mine. You can't take her from me. There was no need to guess who had sent it. I smiled faintly and replied, trash in the trash can quite a match. Apparently dissatisfied. Claude sent another photo of him and Charlotte in a different pose. Still talking tough? Just don't cry into your pillow at night. I rolled my eyes. Idiot. The next morning I went to class. Not long after I sat down, Charlotte took the seat beside me. Your favorite buns. When I looked at her, she lifted her chin slightly. What are you staring at me for? Eat before they get cold. Always managed to say things that made my skin crawl. We had once been desk mates, but ever since Claude arrived, she had moved to sit beside him under the pretense of helping the new student. Now, she was back. I had no idea what she was trying to do. But since the teacher had already arrived, I didn't want to argue and disrupt the class, so I held back. After class, I went to the teacher to request a seat change. After school, Charlotte blocked me at the school gate, frowning. William, what are you doing? Why did you change seats? I looked at her calmly, because I wanted to. No reason. Charlotte stared at me, then let out a laugh. All right, don't sulk anymore. I was going to come see you last night, but it got late, and I didn't want to wake you if you were asleep. She then pulled out her phone and handed it to me, speaking as if expecting praise. Look, I deleted everything from WeChat Moments. From now on, if you want to check my phone, you can anytime, okay? Then she suddenly leaned closer, lowering her voice and ending her words with a teasing lilt. I couldn't hold back the nausea and took a step back, vomiting right there in front of her. Charlotte's expression darkened. William, I was about to say something when my phone rang. It was Diana. William, I'm outside your school. My eyes lit up and I glanced around. Low-profile yet luxurious Maybach was parked nearby. I quickly walked over. The car started and pulled away from the school gates. Sitting in the passenger seat, I hesitated for a moment before saying to Diana, she's my ex-girlfriend, but we've already broken up. A faint unease stirred inside me as I said it. Diana smiled, showing no surprise. I know, I don't mind. She paused, then added, William, I don't mind not because I have no feelings for you, but because I care about you very much. You're the partner I've chosen, and I can accept everything about your past. Seeing the sincerity in her eyes, it was impossible not to feel moved. My eyes turned slightly red as I sniffed and looked out the window. Diana didn't say anything else. She simply held my hand more tightly. This time Diana had come with Mr. and Mrs. Sue. They were staying in the capital for a few days to hold a supplementary engagement ceremony for us. The two families had agreed the engagement would be in the capital, and the wedding in City A. Diana was now picking me up to go to the restaurant, where our elders were already waiting. When we arrived and got out of the car, I glanced at my phone and saw dozens of messages and missed calls. My brows furrowed. This was my new number, all of them from Charlotte. William, whose car did you get into? William, answer the phone. Don't make me angry, William. Charlotte called again. I hit decline, then blocked her and set my phone to silence calls. From unfamiliar numbers, Diana waited patiently by my side. When I finished, she took my hand gently. Let's go. I'm not fond of noisy gatherings, but for the engagement, the elders from both families sat together. After the meal, Mr. and Mrs. Sue returned first, leaving Diana in the capital to spend a few days with me. While we were talking, I received several WeChat messages from friends and classmates. William, didn't expect you to be hiding something. This big, you've been with Charlotte all along? Wow, I thought you were just a simp chasing her all this time, but turns out you already conquered her ages ago. William, what's going on? Tell me everything, I'm dying of curiosity. Frowned and opened a screenshot one of them sent. In it, Charlotte had made a WeChat Moments announcement. Let me introduce my boyfriend of 3 years, William. In that instant, anger surged through me. I turned to Diana. Can we take a picture together? Without a word, Diana put her arm around my shoulders, took my phone, and snapped a photo. I posted that picture on my own WeChat Moments. The next second, my moments exploded. Friends flooded in with questions, asking what had happened and what was going on. In the comments, I posted a photo from a few months ago, taken right after. I had broken up with Charlotte. When Diana and I returned home, we ran into Charlotte at the door. Her eyes were bloodshot, fists clenched, and she stared at me in disbelief. William, how could you do this to me? I know you're mad at me for standing you up a few times before. I won't do it again, okay? William, don't find another woman just to spite me. She hurried over, reaching out to grab me, but Diana stepped in to block her. Charlotte was tall, still half a head shorter than Diana. Fury flashed across her face as she tried to push Diana aside. What? But I got there first and slapped Charlotte hard across the face. Charlotte, can you stop disgusting me already? Air went silent. Find another woman just to provoke you? How big is your ego? Don't you feel the slightest bit ashamed? You may not feel it, but I do. I told you long ago that we broke up, that we have nothing to do with each other anymore. I'm already engaged. Don't come bothering me again. The whole scene struck me as laughable. In my previous life, I had refused to let go and married Charlotte. After the wedding, she treated me with cold indifference at every turn, and even in my final moments, she was off traveling with Claude. Now, when I wanted nothing to do with her, she clung to me relentlessly. Was she really that shameless? Charlotte stood frozen, saying nothing, but her feet didn't move as she watched Diana and me walk inside. In that moment, she realized I wasn't joking. Something had been lost forever. The next few days happened to be a holiday, and Diana and I spent them traveling. When we came back, I heard some news from a friend. Charlotte and Claude were engaged. That's good, I said quietly. In my previous life, Charlotte had always wanted to be with Claude, but because of me, they could never openly be together. This time, they got what they wanted. You don't know, they made a total fool of themselves, my friend said. Raised an eyebrow. A scene. Yeah, my friend nodded. You know how fast gossip spreads on campus? Someone dug up that during the time you were with Charlotte, she went out with Claude multiple times and did all sorts of ambiguous things. To clear her name with Claude, Charlotte came out claiming they were just friends. And that the earlier stuff was because she lost a game TSK. My friend curled his lip. What kind of friends hug, cuddle, and go on overseas trips together? Just the two of them? Oh wait, there's a kind boyfriend and girlfriend. I chuckled. Really is a piece of work, but Claude is something else too. On the surface, he publicly backed Charlotte's story, claiming they were just friends. But then he turned around and sent those bed photos straight to the Lee family. I remembered how Claude had sent me pictures of him and Charlotte sleeping together, holding each other in bed, and how Charlotte acted like nothing had happened the next day, wanting to reconcile with me. It made me feel even more disgusted by her. My friend nodded. Naturally, the Lee family couldn't let such a Scandal get out, so they immediately arranged for Charlotte and Claude to get engaged. In the end, he added with relief, "Good thing you were smart enough to break up with her, even back when you liked her." I wanted to tell you Charlotte never looked like the kind of person who takes relationships seriously. She's not the marrying type. Smart. It was a lesson paid for a lifetime because I had already died once, in the days that followed. I was busy with graduation and preparing for the postgraduate entrance exams. But every weekend, Diana would come to see me. It just so happened that one of those days was my birthday, a fact I had even forgotten myself. Yet Diana appeared in front of me, holding a birthday cake and a bouquet of flowers. But I was sure. I had never told her about it. "How do you know so much about me?" Diana chuckled softly. "Maybe it's because we're connected by fate. Is that so?" I remained skeptical, but in private. I went to Mrs. Sue to learn more about Diana. Mrs. Sue told me that I had actually met Diana when I was little. I was shocked. How did I not know? "Before you turned 5, I brought Diana to your house. Back then, you kept saying she was pretty and that you'd marry her when you grew up." My face flushed red. I truly didn't remember this at all. When I was 5, I had fallen into the water, developed a high fever, and after waking up, I had forgotten everything that had happened before that age. The next time I heard news about Charlotte and Claude was a few months later. Charlotte had gone to prison. That news honestly shocked me. Right after graduation, the Lee family forced Charlotte, Lee, and Claude to get married. After the wedding, Charlotte often argued with Claude. Every time they fought, she wouldn't come home at night, instead going to bars and messing around. Over time, Claude couldn't take it anymore. Holding their child, he went to a bar to find her and bring her home. Charlotte felt embarrassed being confronted like that in public. During the struggle, she pushed Claude, and his head hit the corner of a table. Just bad luck, I guess he hit a nerve and died instantly. Claude's family lost their son, so of course they weren't going to let it slide. They argued with the Lee family, demanding money to settle the matter. But the Lee family had many children, and Charlotte and Claude's scandal had already shamed them. How could they spend money to protect her? They simply handed Charlotte over. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a little pity. But I had already experienced the Lee family's coldness in my previous life, when I had gotten into a car accident while running around for Charlotte's. Karirin was wheeled into the operating room, unable to reach her. I had called the Lee family. All they said was for me to handle it myself. "All right, enough of that. Your girlfriend's here to see you," my friend said with a wink. I looked up and saw Diana standing not far away, smiling at me. I stood and walked over, naturally taking her hand. "It's not the weekend. What brings you here?" I asked. Leaning on my arm, Diana tilted her face up toward me. "I came because I missed you." I smiled. That answer, I liked it. Diana's story: I first met William when he was 5, and I was 8. According to my mother, William was the little husband she had found for me, and we were supposed to marry in the future. I was immediately unhappy. How could I marry someone I had never even met? I didn't want to go, but being young, I couldn't fight the adults, so I was dragged to William's house. When we first met, he was crying miserably for some reason, snot and tears all over his face. I found him utterly disgusting. But the moment he saw me, he stopped crying. Before I could react, he ran over and hugged my legs, calling out in a clear, sweet voice, "Pretty sister." Then he wiped his snot on me. Wonderful. My only thought in that moment was throw him out. But William's mother scooped him up before I could do anything. My mom stood off to the side, smiling so hard her eyes disappeared. I was in a foul mood that day, and the idea of marrying him made it worse. I wanted to leave that very day, but my mom insisted we stay at William's house for a while. From that day on, a little shadow followed me everywhere. Before dawn, every morning, he would climb into my bed, calling for me to get up and play. When night fell, he would climb into my bed again, asking to sleep beside me. It drove me crazy, but he was kind of good-looking. There were a few times I wanted to secretly make him cry so he'd stop clinging to me, but when I looked into those big, watery eyes, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Forget it, no point holding grudges against a little kid. the day I left. William held my hand and secretly led me out of the house to a riverbank. He said he had seen lots of little fish in the water and wanted to catch some for me as a parting gift. I thought it wasn't safe and planned to take him back, but he moved too fast and accidentally fell in. I panicked and jumped in after him, pushing him to shore. But I was still young after getting him out. I was too exhausted to climb up, and was swept away by the current. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed. My mom was crying beside me, and my dad asked why I had gone to the river. I thought for a moment, then said it was my idea to catch fish and bring William there. That day, I was whipped dozens of times with a belt, beaten so badly I couldn't get out of bed for nearly a month. From then on, I held a grudge against William in my heart. I swore that if I ever married him, I'd make sure to bully him back. But, as we grew older, William forgot me entirely. It felt like my whole world had collapsed. I found out he already liked another girl, so I could only bury my feelings deep inside, until one day, when I was in the capital on business and visited a friend at the hospital, I saw a man covered in blood being rushed into surgery. With just one glance, I recognized him. It was William. He had been in a car accident, bleeding heavily, while his wife was abroad on vacation with her lover. In that moment, my eyes turned red, and I had only one thought: destroy Charlotte. And later, I did exactly that, until I opened my eyes again and found that I had been reborn. Memories intact. Reborn to a time when he hadn't yet married, when everything could still be changed. This time, I still asked my parents to arrange a marriage for us. But I refused to just wait and do nothing like in my previous life. Just as I was about to take the initiative, I got my answer. William agreed. I knew then that I wasn't the only one who had been reborn.